The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And hello, welcome to the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community. Our legal correspondent, David Lesh, concludes his Winter Law series. Also, his wealth of financial knowledge is just the thing you'll need for economic empowerment. Plus, we'll introduce you to an educational institution that has educated and generated some of the city's finest young men, family, and teachers. They are all coming together now to keep this institution open. And we'll tell you what's the connection between cycling, urban youth, and a career in architecture. And finally, mixing hip-hop and education to not only create better music, but a more improved younger generation. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now, we're officially open. And hello, Bronxites. Welcome to Open. I'm your host, Darren Jaime. Today is Wednesday, March 2nd, 2011. And of course, you're watching Open, the only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. So feel free to give us a call at 718-960-7241. Or you can send us an email to open@bronxnet.org. And you can also check us out on Facebook. From there, you'll be able to see some past episodes of Open, as well as comment and write on our discussion boards on issues of concern that may be for you. Well, over the course of this winter season, our legal correspondent David Lesh has been joining us and sharing about the laws that keep you protected from such situations like the lack of hot water in your apartment, carbon monoxide poisoning, how to handle areas where snow and ice are not shoveled, and much, much more. But today he ends his legal series on mold and mildew. And David, good to have you back.
Nice to be back. You know, I'm kind of moving into spring at this point. I want to end our series. It's time. We spent a good portion
Winter is over.
Winter's over.
We're going to make it over.
We're going to make it over. I left this particular topic for last only because as the weather gets warmer, moisture seems to get trapped within apartments in the Bronx, and that's when mold and mildew will develop. And it's an area of the law that's been growing, and I thought it was important for the viewers to understand what their rights are if mold and mildew does start to grow in their apartments and they have some type of respiratory illness that ends up following. What we're really talking, let's take a step back, by the way. When we're talking about mold, we're talking about fungi. It's a type of species, actually. You know, you got plants, you got animals, you got bacteria, protozoa, and you have fungi. Fungi used to be combined with plants, but it's got its own separate genus now. And you got about 1.5 million types of mold. So there are many different types of mold. Most are fine, and we breed them spores all the time. It's when the spores land in some type of water or moisture area and they start to grow that then they produce allergens, and then that's when we have a problem. But generally, the spores that we breathe in all day long really doesn't really make much of a difference. It's only if the elderly and sometimes the very young that can really be affected by it. This particular area of the law is called toxic mold. I've had a couple of cases in my office. I'll discuss them with you. But the most important thing for people to know when you're talking about mold cases is you have three things you got to prove. Number one, that the landlord knew or should have known that the mold was in the apartment for a significant amount of time, that he should have removed it or she should have removed it. I'll talk about that in a second. Number two, that the mold itself in the apartment is dangerous because there's many molds that are fine. And the third thing is that whatever it is that is bothering you or ailing you, you can connect it to the actual mold.
We see a lot of mold and mildew cases in the borough of the Bronx?
Yes. You see a tremendous amount because of the tightness of buildings. Buildings are being constructed in such a way now that the insulation is very, very good. The that keeps the heat in, which is good for the winter. The windows are better maintained, and they're put inside, and when they're put into the buildings. The problem is once it starts to get warmer and water gets inside, there's really no way for air to get in to really dry up the water that's in there. So if you have a leak because of a plumbing leak or something else, that's when spores will start to develop, and that's when you might get a toxic mold syndrome. So let's talk about those three elements now. All right. The question is, what would be considered reasonable for a landlord to remove mold and mildew from your apartment? Usually it occurs in the bathroom. If you notice it, it's on the ceiling or behind the mirror or somewhere that way. And you can smell it many times. That's how you know you have mold. Well, within 24 to 48 hours is when you're going to get the allergens. And that's when you're going to start to get a feeling of dizziness, headaches. If you have asthma, difficulty breathing. So within 24 to 48 hours of you telling the landlord has a legal responsibility to remove that mold and mildew from the area. So far, so good?
So far, so good.
But now the question is, the mold itself, is that a dangerous mold? Because you see mold all the time. You see moldy bread, you see mold carpet. Okay. Well, that's the problem that I usually have as an attorney. I need to get a sample of the mold for purposes of litigation. So what ends up happening is sometimes the clients will come in and tell me that they had the mold condition and they have asthma as a result, but they've already had the mold cleaned up. So I never have a chance to test the mold to see whether this is a potential toxic mold. So that's the hardest part that I usually have.
So most of the time when you have a mold case, the best thing to do is before you tell the landlord, just in case, you ought to have some samples.
Well, right. What you do is you tell the landlord immediately, so at least you can say you've given that notice, right? If you don't give the notice, you got a problem. And obviously get medical treatment if you have some breathing issue. But you need to this is one of the few cases where I really do say you do need an attorney, and you need an attorney fast. Because you need somebody to go in there, or an expert, to take the mold and test it to see exactly what it is before it's gone. Because you can bet that the defendant's attorney for the insurance company is going to say, well, I don't know what kind of mold was there. It could have been one of the 1.5 million types of mold and nothing that would be toxic. So that's very important. The third thing that I tend to have a problem with is connecting whatever it is that's bothering you to the mold. Because many people in the Bronx have asthma, as you know, and other respiratory illnesses. So who's to say your breathing issue isn't from just allergies or something genetic? So that is a tough thing to be able to connect. However, as I said earlier, this is a growing area of the law. It seems that the toxic mold causes of actions are growing in Bronx County. So jurors are very sympathetic to this type of ailment. So if you do feel that somebody in your family has some type of toxic mold that you have developed as a result of the landlord not correcting the condition, see a lawyer, and see a lawyer fast, because this is one of the areas where you come across as much more sympathetic, as opposed to, some of the automobile accident cases. Sometimes jurors are not so willing to be so giving for pain and suffering. The areas, and I've discussed this on air, that I see where they seem to be a little bit more sympathetic would be, let's say, sexual harassment cases, or things where you've been assaulted by the police. Mold and mildew and toxic mold, you have a sympathetic jury. I see that. I feel that from the jurors. You may not get it in other areas, but you do get it here. Because many of the residents of the Bronx are fed up with their landlords, especially if they're not responding to complaints, which we've seen many times. And if you're getting sick from a result of it, not just that not just that they're not doing repairs or patching up ceilings, but you're actually getting sick, jurors will make sure they punish the landlord and compensate you. So it's an area of the law that seems to be growing right now. So I thought it was important to end the winter with this particular, area.
So quick recap.
Quick recap. Notice. Give notice to the landlord as quickly as possible. Do it in writing so the landlord can say you didn't give him notice. And when I say writing, I'm talking certified mail. Okay? Or drop it off and get it signed by the managing agent.
Right.
Number two, get the mold tested so you can at least show your attorney or the attorney knows that it's bad mold, toxic mold. Third thing, get a doctor to state in a record that your respiratory ailment, your dermatitis, your whatever it is coming from the mold. Got those three things? you got a case.
All right, David Lesh, as always, thanks for coming and sharing with us.
See you next week.
And you'll see you next week with more legal tips and from our legal correspondent. And right after the break, we're going to tell you, he is here to tell you why financial literacy is more important than earning money. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show, so we want you to stay with us because Open will return right after this.
So here are the keys. Congratulations, it's officially yours. I'm sure you'll have many happy years here. Except for you, because you'll be gone 3 years from now, struck down by the same disease that got your father. So you won't be around for them. And sadly, it could have been detected early with a simple test, but you didn't have it. Okay, who wants to check out the backyard?
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
The magical thing about using energy wisely is that anyone can do it. Turn off lights. Use energy-saving light bulbs. And turn off computers and game systems when not in use. Make a change and we can really fly. Grab a grown-up and go online to energy.gov/kids.
Hey, how's it going?
Sir, are you okay?
What? Oh, this? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it'll go away.
Go away? But sir, that can't be good.
No, it's cool, really.
Do you want a napkin or something?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this. So why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately. Because time lost is brain lost.
I remember how much you said you liked mine. Oh.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Be free.
Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad. Nice.
Charles!
Nice, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Well, throughout the book, Living in the Village, entrepreneurs, single parents, youth, ex-cons actually share how they use the ideals of fiscal responsibility to overcome many of the obstacles that were stopping them from what they wanted to achieve. Our next guest is the author of this book, and he thoroughly explains the principles so that you can implement those same values in your everyday life. He's also the president of Optimum Capital Management, a financial planning company that puts financial literacy ahead of earning more revenue. You've seen him on CNN, you've seen him on all across the networks, and now we are pleased to have him here at BronxNet on Open, Mr. Ryan Mack. Ryan, good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure really to have you here. And talk a little bit about this, and we talked about the book and Living in the Village.
Right.
Talk to us about this financial literacy and how you are strengthening people who may not be so literate.
I used to be a trader on Wall Street for about 6 years, and I decided to go into financial planning, but I realized that most of the financial planning companies that were giving me offers only wanted to work with high net worth individuals. So long story short, I started my own business that was highly based on the curriculum of teaching financial literacy to those in the demographic that I was brought up in, subsidized living, individuals who were living check to check, but not only those, but individuals in high net worth and everybody, because it's not just for the rich, it's not just for the poor. It really is just for everyone to make sure that we can just encourage ourselves to be able to make sure that tomorrow is a better day by planning for it and properly planning for it. So we From gang members to Wall Street to everybody from CNN to Main Street, we teach financial literacy.
What are some of the primary components for financial literacy, some basic steps that people really need to understand?
Well, a lot of things that what we've discovered is at the very basic, the core is that our mentality has to change into a more positive and progressive thinking in terms of accumulating wealth. A lot of individuals that we've talked to find that they don't have the ability to obtain or procure wealth. So essentially what they will do is they say, well, there's no need for me to save. There's no need for me to plan because I'm living check to check. I really don't have the resource in order to make sure that I can be productive in society. So we really work on the mindset initially. Then we try to get into the technical things such as improving their FICO scores, making sure they have the right amounts of insurance, avoiding predatory insurance practices, making sure they can plan for 6 to 9 months of living expenses, making sure they can properly plan for their estate, that will, living will, healthcare proxy, financial powers of attorney, making sure they're getting to budgeting, and over 60% of this country is spending more money than they earn every single month. Finally, after the recession, we have a between 5 and 6% savings rate, where before, first time in history since the Great Depression, that our savings rate in this country go negative. So we're trying to really just get at the basic and the core root, and that's just the basic. But we go through in terms of diversifying portfolios and helping individuals of high net worth manage their portfolio because they can be productive through society by managing their resources as well.
What do you say to the person who's watching right now and says, listen, you know what, this sounds really cool, but right now I'm at a zero base. I'm starting at zero. I don't know what can I do in order to get my thing going at a zero base? Because somebody say, listen, I might be disqualified from this. It sounds good, Ryan sounds good, but yet and still, I don't feel like I could be able to do that.
Well, essentially, again, you got to check your mindset. We've seen a lot of it. I went to South Africa, and in South Africa, we did a lot of work with individuals who are, for my definition, the true definition of poverty. These individuals who are living in the shanty town, given pieces of property that essentially in the post-apartheid era that, these individuals had 2 pair of clothes to go to school. They had to defecate in one central area within the entire village. So that was the true definition of poverty. But one thing they did have was hope. So a lot of those individuals that we helped them form businesses. We helped them to at least see what sort of resources they can use. And they had the vision to be able to do so. We have, we do a lot of workshops in public housing here in the States. And over the last two years or so, we've had maybe 60, 70 different workshops in community centers and public housing. But many of these individuals, they might have a lot of high materialistic things such as cable boxes, such as a lot of things that they might have purchased from Rent-A-Center. That's very heavily prevalent, located in terms of marketing individuals who do market in Rent-A-Center, in public housing communities. So, it almost seems like these predators focus on the lack of knowledge that we may have in order to capitalize off of that so they can make money off of that, as opposed and keeping those individuals in poverty. So what we have to do is just change that. I mean, the rush cards and refund anticipation loans, they wouldn't make money unless they had a market to do so.
Right.
So what we have to do is really just focus on them and say, what can we do to just squeeze water out of a rock sometimes? Just start with the basics. Do I need to get additional money? Do I need to get a side income? We've helped a lot of gang members form businesses, Bloods and Crips that have come home from Rikers Island. We've helped them go to Home Depot and form weatherizing companies with just $40, $50 by just purchasing the necessary items. We've helped them purchase between $100 of painting supplies and form painting companies. We've helped individuals come home from prison and form construction companies just by using the local resources in the area and making sure they can maximize what they are doing in order to obtain, not only to get employment, but to create employment. Obtaining employment and creating your own employment are 2 different things that we have to start focusing on. But these only come with the right mindset and mentality that we have to do to move ourselves forward.
How do you get into the mindset of the gang member who says, listen, you know what? Because obviously, when you really look at it, they are business people. They're just going in the wrong way. And drug dealers.
They're hustlers, but at the end of the day, we just have to hustle legitimately, and that's what we always talk to them and say, because they have a desire to earn money. But what we try to do is say, look, you can earn money, but let's do it for the benefit of your community, not for the demise of your community. Let's earn money in a way that you can assist you to create that company. You've helped a few gang members form businesses, and now they're actually employing other gang members in their businesses. And when they see the results of that, being able to pull somebody off the street and earn a legitimate living wage, and to be able a living wage, not just minimum wage, but a living wage. Because I actually do believe that minimum wage is not necessarily a living wage. But these gang members going into societies and form them construction companies, they might not be able to, put down the guns and pick up a hammer and help rebuild your community and not tear it down. And when they see that and they see the results from that, and then they can actually support themselves, that's all they really want to do. They're hungry, they want to support their family. Many of them are homeless and have no other way. They've seen the gang life and drug dealing life is the only outlet that they have. But you show them another way. I mean, sad to say, a lot of our the most productive mentors in our communities right now are the drug dealers who are showing our individuals the wrong way. But we have to, as a society, that's what the purpose of the book is, getting into our communities and showing individuals the right way of how to make sure they can have a productive living wage.
The book is called Living in the Village, and Brian Mack is the author. He's here with us here on Open, and we're glad to have him share with us. If people go through the book, what are they going to be able to find?
Well, they're going to be able to find about 80% of it is my strategies, how to improve your credit, how to make sure that your insurance is provided for, how to purchase the right amount of insurance, all the way to what is a stock, what is a bond, how to start a business, how to buy a home for the first time. It's probably one of the most comprehensive books, and I really made it that purposefully to make it be a handy tool guide for individuals to be able to utilize. But the other 20% of it are 15 individuals that we've all interviewed, that we've either impacted directly or we've talked to, that have been able to overcome fiscal adversity in their lives using principles of fiscal responsibility. And now because they've been able to do so, they're giving back to society. And that's what the whole purpose of financial literacy. It's not about what you can do for yourself, but how you can empower yourself to make you a better impact on your community and surroundings.
Give you the final word. Talk to us about young people starting off learning about saving. I mean, obviously,
Right.
we've got kids and they have desires to want to get stuff, but talk to them about savings and really what they should be.
It's just tons of resources out there. We have a resource out there called moneymovement.org. We also have another website called allaboutbiz.org, allaboutbiz.org. So these are resources that we provide that what these young folks are doing is just taking the time to learn about how to start their own businesses. The Fair Gray was an individual who was a millionaire by the time he was 14, 15 years old. So these are stories that individuals can do only if they apply themselves. Sometimes what young folks have to do is just take the limits off of their thinking, off their mindset. That's sometimes sad to say that many adults put on them. So if they can say, I can start a business, I can go on various websites and go on Morningstar and Google and just learn about different things so we can start empowering ourselves and making sure that we can move ourselves forward. We can do anything about time. My whole strategy is by the time you're 18, you should have at least one business started so you can put that on your resume and make yourself more marketable for scholarships and internship program opportunities.
Brian Mack, thank you so much
Appreciate
for coming.
it,
Sure. Good to have you. You got to come back.
Definitely. Thank you so
much.
much.
All right, good to see you, man. All right, got to take a quick break, but when we come back, there will be more Open right after this. I want you to stay with us. Come right back.
Sometimes you may think you are too old to do yoga. Well, tell that to 92 years young yoga master Tao Porchon Lynch. Tao believes everyone is truly capable of accomplishing anything they put their mind into.
What inspires me, I think, is to go into a class where people don't think they can do anything and see the expression on their face when they find out that they can, because I believe that nothing's impossible.
Tao studied yoga with many of the great yogis in India and walked side by side with Gandhi.
Just the fact that she's practicing for 70 years is just amazing and inspiring for you to aspire to practice yoga for as long as she has.
Tao made a special appearance at the Bamboo Moves studio in the Bronx. Denise Rivera Melendez, a teacher at Bamboo Moves in the Bronx, explained the studio's mission.
Bamboo Moves is here. It was brought here and opened by Michael Baez. He felt there was a need for a place like this in the community here in the Bronx to teach people about health, how to care for themselves physically, spiritually.
During the workshop, Letitia Dejean felt a special connection with Tao.
I couldn't stop smiling. I thought it was amazing that, just how wonderful she was, so full of energy, and how she explained different things and how eloquent she was. It was beautiful, and when she would adjust me or come up to me, I felt honored and very privileged to be in her presence.
When you can see the expression on someone's face that suddenly realize that they can do it, that's the greatest token any teacher can ask for.
This remarkable lady provided new techniques and words of wisdom to anyone interested in bringing a positive attitude into their life.
There's nothing we can't do if we tune in to our inner selves and know that within us is all the power of the universe. We can do the same thing with our lives. Don't look down, look out and smile.
We're back to Open. We want to tell you, come on and share with us. 960-7241. That's the number where you can call and share. We are a live and interactive talk show, so we encourage you to always come on out and check us out. Darren Jaime here with you on Open. I'm so glad to have you sharing with us as we continue to move forward in the show. Well, we're talking about the next story, and the next story is just this. It is the UA. It's called the UA Academy of History and Citizenship for Young Men. Holds the highest standards in personal and academic excellence, and they develop students of self-identity and build strong young men. It's also one of New York City's first all-boys public high schools in 30 years. Now, unfortunately, the school is in danger of closing, but parents, teachers, and the community are rallying their fight to keep the school open. Joining us now to discuss the mission of the academy and what it's done for young men who've entered its doors and what's next in the fight is one of the founding teachers, Azim DeVoe, and we welcome you now to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate being here.
Talk to us about this, because obviously it's a very trying time for you guys. You know, you've a lot of accomplishments, but yet and still it seems like doors are possibly closing. Where do you stand now?
Yeah, it's very stressful. We have a who's trying to close schools instead of support and build schools. A little bit about our school. It's the Urban Assembly Academy of History and Citizenship for Young Men. You already stated, all-boys school. We have our young men wear shirt and ties. They're all Black and Latino youth from either the Harlem or Northern Manhattan area or the Bronx. Our principles are the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So those who aren't familiar, that's going to be unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, creativity, purpose, faith, but in cooperative economics. Forgive me. So we do all this to focus on these young men. We talk about their historical legacy. We give them knowledge of self-identity, and we use that to gear them towards success. You know, I found, your parents probably told you the same thing mine did, that you could do anything you want, or you could be anything you want, but a lot of our young men don't believe it when they come through our doors as 9th graders. So we really try to build in their own self-worth, and I think that's the most important thing in my 18 years of teaching high school. I found that once students really believe that they're worth something, that they can accomplish anything, that the rest becomes easy. You know, they have to, instead of fighting them to educate them, you got to convince them that they're worth education.
So budget cuts seems to be the primary reason the school's going to close.
That's what the mayor says, but actually he just released there's a $3 billion surplus for the New York City. So it seems to just be a lie and attack on education. There's enough money to not lay off teachers. He's been talking about that. There's enough money not to close schools. Matter of fact, every time they close schools, they're opening other schools or opening charter schools. So it's not a lack of money. You know, it seems like an attack on public education. So I'm very disappointed in this mayor.
Why do you feel your school makes the difference? I mean, obviously it's an all-boys school, as we said. It's a different kind of school because you definitely are, the men or young men are uniformed up and they have an opportunity to be exposed to some different things.
Well, it's not just that I feel that way. Actually, there's a national report called the Schott Foundation, SCHOTT, and it shows what New York City is doing. I think they're educating black males. The last report from the Schott Foundation was at 28%. Our graduation rate has been over 50% average for our past 3 years. We're a new school, so we only had 3 graduating classes. Brown University, Ivy League school, put out a report. It shows on every level we're doing just as well as the city is doing educating males, and when it comes to Black and Latino males, we're doing 10 to 15% better than the city is doing. The problem is the graduation rates and the rates of the city includes females, and though I don't make excuses for any boys, women are graduating at a higher percentage rate than guys are. So when you could take an all-boys school and you put them up against an average that includes females, it looks like it's underperforming. But that's just not the case. If you compare apples to apples, we're doing better than the city is doing educating Black and Latino males.
Do you feel that they really researched the numbers correctly, or do you feel that this is just a broad decision?
No, I don't think they researched it at all. I went to one of the hearings for the school closings, and the mayor appoints 8 people on the panel for about 20 different votes. All 8 of the people voted the same way. They weren't interested in any of the research in any of the schools that came and spoke, hearing any of the parents that came to spoke, any of the stats or figures. I gave them the figures I just told you. What they're just trying to do is close schools. The mayor went down to D.C., said he's trying to close over 100 schools. He wasn't interested in helping them or supporting them or checking the research. His goal was just to shut schools down, and that's what he's doing.
Where do things go from here for you?
Well, I continue doing interviews like this. I was just up in Albany twice these past couple of weeks working and talking about with the union to try to prevent any school closing, to try to prevent school layoffs, teacher layoffs. And our goal is just to get the word out there and hoping that, you know, someone somewhere along the line will say, look, these schools deserve a chance. We need to support schools. We need to keep our schools open. If we have a school that's doing better with a certain population of people, we need to find a way to support them and not a way to close them down. We have a higher special education rate than the city. We have a higher Title I rate than the city. We have a high ESL rate of students English as a second language in the city. All of these don't come into play when they judge a school. And we're not making an excuse for any students, but I've taught long enough to know you have to take students from where they are and then bring them, you know, to where you want them to be. And you have to look at each student differently. You can't just put one flat number and close schools on anybody who doesn't meet this number.
Mm-hmm. What's the response of some of your students? I mean, we talk always about the parents, the educators. What are students feeling about the possibility of closing the doors?
Well, Darren, that's the saddest thing, that, you know, the business, when you have a business mayor or a business chancellor, they're not educators, you know, they don't really take into account the hit and the blow to a student's morale that their school is closing. So a lot of the work we've been doing since they told us our school is closing is just try to convince students, you know, this is not your fault, you know, don't take it personally, you have to succeed despite what this mayor is trying to say about you. So one of it affects the students negatively, you know, as far as their morale. But I've been actually very proud of some of our students that have risen up, taken the challenge. They've been speaking, giving interviews, talking to newspapers. And so it's actually been a very unifying aspect at our school too. So, you know, Matthew Morgan, Rayvon Williams, some of our scholarship winners who've really been out there showing the success that we've been doing. So in a sense, it's been a negative, but I'm actually very proud of the students who stepped up.
So for people who want to assist, what can they do?
Well, our school, there was a Tumblr site where we have a lot of our interviews and things. It's uaachtumblr.com. I don't know if they have it up, but it's uaahc.tumblr. That's TUMBLR. There's no E in it, .com. They can see when I spoke at the hearing to support the school, they can see some of the quotes from our parents and from our students on how they feel about the school closing. And they can contact me. You know, what we're really just trying to do is get the information out there. The mayor made his decision. He's not trying to appeal. So we really just need parents and communities to really rise up and stop this travesty of these school closings. These 20-something schools he's closing this year. He's promising to close some more next year. We really got to unify now before it's too late.
All righty. Well, we want you to keep coming back to us and keep us updated as to how things work out. And thank you for coming and sharing a little bit about the UA.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Darren.
All righty. Well, we encourage you, stay with us and don't go anywhere because we'll be back with more Open right after this. But before we go, social media was the topic at Monroe College, sponsored with the SBA.gov and the Bronx Women's Business Resource Center. Our reporter, Sylvian Anglin, interviewed BronxNet's own Michael Max Nobby and Gary Axelbank as they were a panel as well as some others. They discussed how Bronx businesses can stay up to date, informed, as well as create new growth and connect to potential customers and with friends, families, and colleagues using social media tools available on the web today.
Social media was the hot topic of discussion for the Bronx small business owners. They gathered at the final installment in a series of discussions on social media at the Bronx Women's Business Center, hosted at Monroe College. The diverse panel discussion offered business advice and the benefits of using the social media tool correctly.
Right now the world is flat. And what I mean by that is that because of these instruments right now, what happens is that you can get to more people, reach more people, and you have to be smart about it.
Most of those attending the event use one form of social media to either communicate with potential customers or to keep in touch.
I absolutely love Facebook. I check it each day because to me that's very important. It's all about being social. And social now in the 21st century, it's about media.
Panelists stress the importance not only controlling what you write on your social media site, but consider any material published, so that this tool that allows you to communicate with your friends and family is also transmitted to cyberspace.
Be aware that everything you do can go everywhere. And so if there's something that you don't want somebody to see, whoever it is, don't do it and don't post it.
There is opportunity for community building through media and training and
democracy in a digital age right here through these social media tools combined with these social media and broadband spaces and places. We're building something special here. It's connecting communities locally and beyond.
Panelists touched on the dark side of social media. To avoid some of these dangers, simple tips were offered to navigating social media safely.
I think the first thing is think about what's going to happen in 10 years' time, and do you want it on your Facebook or Twitter page today? And the second thing I tell everybody is remember it's publicly out there, and once it's out there, do you want a prospective employer to look at that?
The Bronx Women's Business Center hosted Social Media in the 21st Century, focusing on how we can use things like Facebook and Twitter to communicate with our intended audience. It's always important to remember that whoever you're communicating with, you must have a solid and strong message. Sylvia Anglin for BronxNet.
And thank you, Sylvia. You are watching Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. We encourage you, give us a call, 718-960-7241, or feel free to check us out on the web, as you know, www.bronxnet.org. Well, the mission of Velo City is to introduce high school students living in diverse, disadvantaged communities to urban planning, design concepts, and career options in architecture, landscape, and urban design. Well, how do they accomplish this? Through the activity of cycling. And with us now to provide more information is the co-founder and director of development, Samalise Lopez. And thank you so much for joining
Hi,
with
good
us.
morning. Thank you for having me.
Good,
It's
good.
a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you.
So I couldn't have said it better myself. By Explorations is the program that is run by Velo City to introduce kids living in underserved communities to urban planning, community development, and community engagement. And it's a really great way for students to get involved in their communities and to discover other neighborhoods that they wouldn't have discovered on their own if it had not been for biking. So you could say that biking is kind of like their passport to discover different New York City neighborhoods so that they can become better global citizens using New York City as a template.
So when you get on the bikes, then what happens?
Well, you just explore different neighborhoods, and the format of the program, it's a 7-week program that's held every Saturday from 10 to 3. And we invite different guest lecturers from the community to talk about different urban planning topics, be it affordable housing, gentrification, urban design, landscape architecture. And at the end of the 7 weeks, the kids lead their own bicycle led tours of the community that they've been studying for the summer. And they, talk to the community about what they've been learning, and they basically move along. And
Well, when you talk about the students and talk about their participation, because when you have kids who are engaged and they've got an activity such as cycling, it actually translates them to be able to learn more about the community and culture and things of that nature. What is the response of some of the students that you're getting who are taking part in this program?
Oh, they're so excited, and a lot of them say that they'll definitely come back again and teach like future incoming classes of bike explorers. That's what we call them. And they're just really excited about the opportunity to give back, to learn about different city neighborhoods, to learn why different neighborhoods have some advantages and some amenities that other neighborhoods don't have. And that's something that through biking they are able to explore.
Share with us a little bit of the neighborhoods that you've been to. What are some of the neighborhoods the kids have been?
Well, our pilot program was held in the Lower East Side. It was based out of East River Park last year, and it was a great experience for the kids. And this year we're looking to potentially move into the Soundview community and the Bronx. So we're looking to expand into different city neighborhoods as our capacity allows.
So people who want to be involved, how do they do that?
Well, they can contact us on Facebook. We're on Facebook. We have a blog, and they can also email us at info@velocityrides.org. Because we're actively recruiting youth for our summer program this year. So we encourage them to get involved and reach out to us.
So what do you think kids actually take away out of this whole experience?
Well, they learn how to become involved. They learn about urban planning at an early age, because I, would put myself as an example. I didn't know about urban planning until much later on in life, because usually like in immigrant communities of color, like your parents direct you to either be a lawyer or a doctor or a fighter, a librarian, a traditional profession that they already know about. But urban planning is not necessarily a traditional profession. I discovered urban planning later on in life when I worked at Congressman Serrano's office, and I would go to various community board meetings, and that's how I learned about it, because originally I thought I wanted to go into law school, and I spoke to a lot of lawyers, and I'm like, are you really sure about this? I mean, I'm not necessarily happy doing what I'm doing. So when I would go to these community board meetings, I would find out about issues that I grew up thinking about pursuing, and it was just a great outlet for me to be involved in my community. And then I decided to go into urban planning. And what great opportunity for kids to be involved in urban planning and learn about it at an early age, learn about a profession that they can be involved in, have fun, and give back to their community.
Have you found the kids really want to not have the same experience as you now? They might be thinking about,
Yeah, and I mean, even though if they don't go into urban planning, I mean, just the fact that they can learn about the urban development process that guides their daily lives is very relevant. And even becoming engaged in the community would be amazing for them. I mean, our point is that we want them to become involved and to have the tools so that they can make a difference in their community.
We're saying a little bit of the website that's up on the air right now. Walk us through your website and some of the things we're seeing.
Yeah, we're seeing now, like, it's us writing. I think it's in the Ditmas community in Brooklyn. And that's basically what we do with the kids every week. We take them on different tours of, the neighborhoods, and, they're charged with leading neighborhood bike tours. So that's what they would be doing at the end of the 7-week summer session. And they would be talking to the community about different historical features that they've researched throughout the 7 weeks.
So 7 weeks is the summer session. You guys
And it's a free program, and they get a stipend and free lunch.
A stipend and free lunch.
Yeah.
We have to say that. Make sure they
have
have stipend,
free
free lunch, right? Okay, and so for people who want more information, how do they go about that?
They can contact us at info@velocityrides.org or definitely hit us up on Facebook.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. Good to have you. And best wishes for your summer program.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, we encourage you. You got to stay there. You took the seat. You got to stay there. Stay there. Don't worry. She's so in a rush. Stay right there. And you don't go anywhere, because it's going to be more open after the break. Actually, we're going to bring arts and education to underserved communities using two of hip-hop's oldest forms of expression. You'll find out what they are right next. Okay.
Hey, Mom. Girls, I used to cheer back in my day. Ready? Okay! Go team!
That was amazing. Mom, that was amazing.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
It's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
It's very vital that the community be involved with these types of productions.
It introduced me to the operations of camera, about field production.
It was like an extended version of going back to school for me.
I think BronxNet brought it out of me.
But BronxNet is a very good source for the regular citizen to just have that opportunity.
It's for the community, to be utilized by the community.
To present their side, their story through communications and through the television medium.
Voice your support to keep the channels open and strong. Online, visit bronxnet.org and click on Support Public Access Television and sign the letter to your local representatives.
Our voices will be heard. Let's keep the channel open and stay strong.
When it's time for lunch, a sandwich is a quick and easy choice. And with the right ingredients, it can be good and good for you. So I'm here today to see who can build the ultimate sandwich. All right, when the time is up, our judges will give you their scores. Ready, set, go! Okay, Jason starts out with a multi-grain roll. Ooh, Allison stuffing her pita with, yes, spinach, a great source of iron. Jason isn't skipping on the protein, adding plenty of smoked turkey, just like Allison's putting the finishing touches with crispy red bell peppers for a dose of vitamin A. Time! It looks like we have a tie. We'll need to call in our special guest referee.
Now these are what I call quick, delicious lunches. Whole grain breads, a whole variety of ingredients. There are so many different ways to build delicious, healthy sandwiches. These two get high marks in every category. I'd say you're both winners. America.
Let's get healthy together.
Let's move. Well, Darren Jaime here with you on Open. The Bridging Education and Art Together program, also known as BEAT, strives to build confidence, teamwork, cultural awareness, and respect. They accomplish this by providing access to new and exciting programs for urban youth in underprivileged communities. Some of their programs include Beat Rockers and Beat Breakers. Here now to tell us more about BEAT is the co-founder, James Kidd. And James, good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Interesting acronym, BEAT.
BEAT, yeah.
But we're getting a lot done with
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So share a little.
So BEAT is Bridging Education and Art Together. We're running 2 programs currently, all in the Bronx. We're in 3 schools. The first program that we launched 2 semesters ago is called Beat Breakers. And so basically it's an after-school B-boy, B-girl program. Our program director is Ken Swift, probably one of the most iconic B-boys in the world today, living with us in New York, and he's the program director. He comes and teaches. And B-Boy Wack from the Breaks crew out in Brooklyn is the head instructor. So we're working together with the Breaks crew and also the Urban Assembly. We had a guest here earlier. Unfortunately, the condition with his school. But we're working with 2 great schools right now. And the other program that we're running is called Beat Rockers, and we're at the Lavelle School for the Blind here in the Bronx. And we're basically teaching blind kids or kids with visual impairments how to beatbox. Which is a fantastic program. We just finished that last semester. Taylor McFerrin, he's our program director and lead instructor. Adam Mata, Chesney Snow, Kenny Muhammad, Masai Electro. Lots of beatboxers in the community have really rallied and come to support the program. It's been a fantastic program.
So students have an opportunity to really volunteer for this program.
It's not that they volunteer. With the Beat Breakers, with the B-Boy program, kids have to either write an essay or do some sort of video essay. What's really important is that we want to make sure that the kids are in the program really want to be in the program. So there is a filter process in terms of who gets to participate. And with Beat Rockers, we went up to the school, we did a performance, and whoever wanted to participate, we just included them. We had about 30 kids participate last semester.
What's it like to see students actually out there beatboxing? Because we know back in the day that was hot. And it's still hot today. Let's keep it real.
Right. Well, I think what's really important is that we're dealing with blind kids or blind students or students with visual disabilities. So what makes that so much more important, or what makes it different, is how these blind kids take in music. It's totally different the way that we take in music.
How do they take it in?
Well, audially, that's pretty much how they're taking in the world at all times. I was really surprised. The sort of inspiration from this program came when I was invited to go DJ at their school dance, and it was the first time I saw blind kids listen to music. It's crazy because it's pure ecstasy in terms of what they feel when the music hits them. What's also kind of funny is that they don't really know how to dance. A lot of them have never seen anyone dance, so when they're into the music, they're just so into it. Now for me, the light bulb went off and I was like, wow, how can we introduce music to these kids? But I thought beatboxing was so much more empowering in the sense that the kids who are always told that they're disabled and they can't do things, what we did was flip that on their head and we're like, you are able. You are totally able, and you don't need an instrument. You don't need anyone helping you. You don't need any equipment. All you need is yourself.
How was that received?
Amazing in terms of the kids' confidence and their ability to kind of look at themselves and be like, you know what, I can do this. And what we did was, or what happened was, the music became another form of dialogue. So these kids are now beatboxing with each other. Some of them sing, some of them rap, some of them play piano. We invited all the kids to come and kind of play to their strengths, but the kids now were communicating with music, which was something that, is really hard to do. Let's say if you're blind or visually impaired, you can't really, get on a piano and someone has to maybe get on, or like, if someone wants to assemble an instrument from you or whatever. But in terms of beatboxing, and it's kind of where hip hop is rooted in the sense that it's just like, well, hey, we don't have much, but we can do this. And in terms of them being able to self-express themselves, we wanted to empower them by teaching them that skill.
What do you feel they're getting out of this? Because obviously it's more than just music.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting that you bring that up. A lot of the kids have, especially at the Lavelle School, they have multiple disabilities. So they're blind, but they have other stuff going on. Whether it be physical, whether it be cognitive. Some of them are not verbal. In a real incredible happy accident that we stumbled upon was we had one of the school speech therapists sitting in class with us. And what we realized is that some of the sounds that we're having the kids make in beatboxing class and beat rockers class, the speech therapists are trying to have these kids make the same sound, but they're not really doing it in speech therapy. But when you put it in the context of music, the kids will make the sounds. So what's really incredible in terms of music, and it's empowering, but now we're trying to develop a specific curriculum where maybe we can use beatboxing to help kids communicate. So that was something that we sort of discovered. But in terms of how can this program provide more than music? There's a real practical way that we can introduce a better communication skills through beatboxing.
I kind of get the sense from talking to you that you took this on, had a little idea that just morphed into something a whole lot more than it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
It's been a really incredible sort of like short journey, and I feel like we're just kind of starting. I think what's really important is that we brought in the best teachers into the fold, and the teachers, now that they've had a semester with the kids, understand the impact that we're making with the school and with these kids. So what we're trying to do now in terms of next steps is develop a very sort of well thought out, meticulous curriculum. Now I want to take this curriculum and I want to be able to share it. And I feel like that's where the program becomes really powerful. We have this in New York and it's really great, and this is within our communities. I'd like to take the curriculum and give it to a beatboxer in LA or in London or in Paris or in Seoul and be like, hey, there are blind kids in your community. There are blind schools in your cities. Like maybe you can take this, and you being a beatboxer can, teach these kids what we taught our kids,
We talked about beatboxing back in the day, how popular it was, and but it's very popular in other areas around the world. Share with us where beatboxing is really hot.
Right now, it's funny, like the Europeans and Asians, once they get a hold of hip hop, I feel like they kind of run with it. Right now, I think in Europe and especially in Asia, those two like regions of the world, and b-boying as well, they take it to a whole other level, and it's really incredible to see what they take a very distinctive American art form and what they're able to do with it. Same with b-boying. And I want to talk about the b-boying too, because I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I'll let you share about the b-boying.
Number one, Ken Swift is, he is such a prominent figurehead in the b-boy community. And I'm an event producer, so that's sort of how we met, and we went on tour last year. What I realized was, going on tour, how receptive the rest of the world is to b-boying. And what I realized was that in New York City, in the Bronx, where all this was born, there was no real access for kids in the community to learn authentic b-boying. I mean, you can go take a hip-hop dance class or something, but in terms of really learning what b-boying is, what it means, where it's from, what hip-hop means, we're so, in the process, we're not just teaching kids how to dance. I feel like there's a whole social history that's really important that the kids really don't know about. If you ask a kid what hip-hop is now and what they're listening to on the radio, it's totally different from where it really came from. And you need someone like Ken Swift, who's a statesman, who really he is real in terms of being a b-boy. So the kids get so much more than just a dance class. They get a real incredible social perspective in terms of what hip-hop is, where it came from, what it means now, and why all that's important.
These guys had a final project. And they're able to, and they're able to really showcase their stuff.
Right.
Take us through the final project and what's that like?
Oh, it's great. So the program is about 12 weeks. What we do is the first 6 weeks is that we just teach kids the basics, and they learn how to they learn how to dance, they learn how to uprock, they get on the floor. And then the last 6 weeks, the kids really focus on doing like a 5-minute showcase, and then they do it in front of their parents, in front of their peers. It's a really incredible process to watch these kids, because a lot of the kids are kind of a little hesitant. They see it on TV. They don't really know what it is. A couple kids in particular who were a little shy, didn't really, really didn't know, didn't really have a lot of confidence in terms of like going out there and dancing, but by the end, and you watch these kids and they ripped it when they did their final performance. The difference is night and day in terms of these kids being confident and just sort of having a little bit of swagger and a little bit of flavor and a little bit of style. At the end of the day, that's what b-boying is all about. It's not how technically proficient you are in doing these moves. It's really about, what kind of style do you have? What kind of flavor do you bring? So it's really incredible to see the kids who are going through the program and what they take away from it. Again, it's not just, I learned how to dance in this program. It's really about, I learned that it's important to have style. It's important to be me, and this is how I'm going to express me.
Now, and after the program's over, there is an opportunity to move on to another advanced level?
Well, the teachers have been teaching for so long. I mean, these b-boys are real b-boys. Like, this is what they do for a living. So it's really, I put it on the strength of the teachers to take kids who have maybe had a couple semesters in, to work with them separately and maybe have them develop more advanced moves. At the same time, we could take kids who have never learned how to b-boy and then, kind of do the basics. So it's an all-encompassing class, whether you have a couple semesters experience or not. We can plug you in terms of, making a cohesive sort of showcase at the end of the semester.
BEAT is Bridging Education and Art Together, and for people who want to find out more information?
Right now, I think we have a website, beatnyc.org, but almost just as importantly, right now we have a Kickstarter campaign going, which ends next week. So if you go to Kickstarter.com and you enter Beat Rockers, you can see our spot, you can see the work that we've done with the kids, and you can also help contribute to keep the program going.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to share with us.
Thank you.
Keep the beat going.
Thank you.
All right, then. All right. Well, we got to wrap up things here on Open. Definitely been a pleasure coming into your homes. And we want to thank all of our guests for joining us. But most of all, we want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, you can tune in for a recable cast of Open at 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Brockstead's Channel 67. And, of course, you can catch a brand new episode on Friday with my girl, Rita Valentine. She'll be coming at you at 10 a.m. Been a pleasure coming into your home today, and we encourage you, keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel wide open. Darren Jaime saying take care until the next time we meet.
Whoa.